The conversation. Why and how do ghosts have clothes? Why ghosts wear clothes or white sheets instead of appearing in the nude? By Shane McCorst in Newcastle University. When you think of a ghost, what comes to mind? A ghastly, mouldy winding sheet, a malevolent pile of supernatural armor, or a sinister gentleman in a stiff Victorian suit. In 1863, George Cruikshank, the caricaturist and illustrator of Dickens's novels, announced a discovery concerning the varied appearance of ghosts. It does not seem, he wrote, that anyone has ever thought of the gross absurdity and impossibility of there being such things as ghosts of wearing apparel. Ghosts cannot, must not, dare not, for decency's sake, appear without clothes, and as there can be no such thing as ghosts or spirits of clothes, why then it appears that ghosts never did appear and never can appear? Why aren't ghosts naked? This was a key philosophical question for Cruikshank and many others in Victorian Britain. Indeed, stories of naked or clothesless ghosts, especially outside folklore, are exceedingly rare. Skeptics and ghost seers alike have delighted in thinking about how exactly ghosts could have form and force in the material world. Just what kind of stuff could they be made of that allows them to share our plane of existence in all its mundanity? The image of the ghost as a figure in a white winding sheet or burial shroud has retained its iconic status for hundreds of years because it suggests a continuity between the corpse and the spirit. The main social role of the ghost before the modern period was to carry a message to the living from beyond the grave, so the link to burial clothing makes sense. This can be seen in the medieval trope of the three living and the three dead, whereby some hunters encounter their future skeletal corpses, wrapped in linen, admonishing them to remember death. Yet by the mid-19th century, with spiritualism and early forms of psychical research spreading across the Western world, people began to report seeing ghosts dressed in everyday and contemporaneous clothing. This raised problems for those interested in investigating the reality of ghosts. If the ghost was an objective reality, why should it be wearing clothes? If the tenets of spiritualism were true, should the soul which has returned to visit the earth not be formed of light or some other form of ethereal substance? Were the clothes of spirits also spiritual, and if so, did they share in their essence, or were they the ghosts of clothes in their own right? You could adopt an idealist position and say that the clothes were metaphysical ideas bound up with the immortal identity of the wearer, the identity of the ghost meaning something more than simply the apparition of a soul force. Another explanation was that ghost seers dress the ghost automatically through unconscious processes, and so we see a ghost in its usual dress because that is the mental picture we have of the person, and this choice of a garment is most likely to inspire recognition. The critic and anthropologist Andrew Lang drew comparisons between dreaming and ghost seeing in 1897 when he stated that we do not see people naked as a rule in our dreams, and hallucinations, being waking dreams, conform to the same rule. If a ghost opens a door or lifts a curtain in our sight, that too is only part of the illusion. The door did not open, the curtain was not lifted. It was produced in the same way as when a hypnotized patient is told that his hand is burned, his fancy then begets real blisters. For Lang, the clothes of ghosts were the stuff that dreams are made of. The implication of this, that ghost seers are dressers but not undressers, seems to reflect the pervading morality of ghosts, whereby most 19th century spirits were sanitized and chaste. Lang's odd assumption that there was no nakedness in dreams echoes this. The matter of spirits, fashion and clothing were central to the identification of class, gender, and occupation in the Victorian period. The ghosts of the servant class seem to be especially tied to their clothes rather than their faces or voices, a theme that comes out in some ghost reports submitted to the Strand magazine in 1908. Here a ghost seer reported seeing a figure which had nothing supernatural about it, being simply that of a servant in a light cotton dress, and with a white cap on. The whole figure had the general appearance of the housemaid, so that she had been the one I had thought of. It was none the least like the cook who dressed in much darker cottons. Clothes identify people and make them capable of representation. Nakedness disrupts this means of instantly categorizing someone. The issue of ghost clothes is interesting for historians of the supernatural because, like a loose thread, pulling at it starts to unravel some of the assumptions about matter and spiritualism. Do ghosts retain the injuries or disabilities that befell them in life? And what about the erotic fleshiness of spirits, the touching and kissing between the living and the dead in the seance room, and the ectoplasm, gauze-like spiritual substance, photographed emerging from the orifices of mediums? Could the living even have sexual intercourse with ghosts? These kinds of naughty debates have not disappeared in the 21st century. Indeed, spectrophilia, or the love of ghosts, is a fetish that is a lively topic of debate on the internet today. Another turn of the screw in the long history of how spirits matter in the world of the living. Shane McCarston, Reader in Cultural History, Newcastle University. Japanese Ghosts and Legends. Teke-Teke, or Click-Clack Ghost. Managed to terrify myself with Japanese urban legends of ghosts again. Tonight's terror. Teke-Teke. Teke-Teke is an imitative noise to represent a scraping or thumping sound. In this instance, to imitate the specific scraping sound of a bloody torso dragging along the pavement, being pulled on its own elbows. Teke-Teke, see, was a girl who fell on some railroad tracks after some childhood bullying gone awry. She was unable to move away in time to avoid the oncoming train and was sliced in half. Her ghost now wields the scythe, and she, legless, creeps around on her elbows, pulling herself along to chase down victims whom she slices in half in imitation of her own disfigurement. As she hunts you down, you can hear her come. Click-clack, 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 teke-teke. Nice also. Anyone that hears of this story will see Teke-Teke's lower half walking aimlessly around the countryside within 3 days. Kuchisake-Onna, Ghost of the Slit-Mouth Woman. Yeah, it's 2 a.m. I'm alone, live near a train, and anything that sounds at all like a clicking noise is freaking me the hell out. Why do I live amongst so many TikTok clocks? I confess I'm a scaredy cat, and I have the particularly unreasonable fear of ghosts of all things. I managed to completely terrify myself into sleeplessness one evening by just reading the Wikipedia article about the Slit-Mouth Woman. According to Japanese legend, the ghost of the Slit-Mouth Woman approaches her victims on the street, covering her mouth. In the old days, she used the long sleeves of her kimono as her cover, but in modern form she wears a surgical mask. She asks her victim, "Do you think I'm pretty?" A no answer means instant death, but a yes prompts her to reveal her face, showing that her mouth has been carved into a Glasgow grin. She asks again if she is pretty. Again, no ensures instant death, but a yes this time means she blesses you with the opportunity to look as pretty as her by slicing her mouth open into a similar Chelsea smile. In some versions of the story, she will also kill you when she does this. The legend, however, does say there are ways to escape. The Slit-Mouth Woman, like many ghosts of lore, is easily confused. Simply repeating your answer multiple times, whatever it may be, can be enough to confuse her and allow you a chance to escape. Another very Japanese way to flee her wrath is to simply tell the ghost of the Slit-Mouth Woman that you are in a hurry and need to be elsewhere. She will apologize for her bad manners for detaining you and let you be. According to the legend, Slit-Mouth Woman was a beautiful girl whose jealous husband mutilated her face by slitting her mouth out to her ears. This trauma drove her to insanity, and this is why her ghost remains bent on inflicting the same fate upon others. Aka Manto, the ghost with the red cape. We seem to be developing a series of posts about Japanese ghosts. After the previous one about Slit-Mouth Woman, I was looking into some more data about the ghosts of Japan and came onto Aka Manto, or Red Cape. Red Cape is reportedly a handsome man wearing a red cape. However, he wears a white mask to disguise his good looks, as they had brought him problems in life. Presumably this is the cause of the unhappiness which turned him into a malicious spirit. He usually only is said to haunt girls' bathrooms and especially inclines to the final stall or the fourth stall. 4 is an unlucky number in Japan, as it is a homophone to the word for death. An experience with red cape finds one sitting on the toilet. A man's voice appears mysteriously, asking, "Do you want a red cape or a blue cape?" To answer with a preference for either results in one's own grisly murder. Asking for red will find red cape appearing and cutting you to shreds or beheading you so that your blood will resemble a cape. Asking for blue brings him to appear and strangle you or else drain the blood from your body so that your skin turns blue. Also, red cape is not so easily fooled as Slit-Mouth Woman. While giving her an alternate answer to her preset questions can confuse her into leaving you be, Red Cape responds to any requests for alternate colors of a cape by simply dragging you away to hell. Or some say that if you ask for yellow, he will end his mischief at merely dunking your head into the toilet. The most effective way to avoid Red Cape's wrath, however, is to refuse any of his offerings. Summoning a ghost in a mirror. Easy magic spell for spirit contact. There is a well-known ritual, often played by children, called Bloody Mary. The game is played thus. 1 or more players go into a darkened room with a mirror and light a single candle. The main player then stands at the mirror and chants the name Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary ad infinitum, or until wishing to stop the game. It is said that the player will see his or her own reflection morph into that of Bloody Mary, who, if allowed to manifest in full, will then reach out of the mirror and kill the player. If one plays the game with the assistance of a second, it's the second's job to flip on the light switch if things get too scary. Turning the light back on will assuredly send away the spirit in the mirror. As I was taught, one can also summon other ghosts the same way simply by chanting their name instead of Bloody Mary. Now again, this was all taught to me as a kid in the context of being a game to play, but of course true believers might feel differently about it. Another simple method for summoning ghosts or spirits is the following from an old grimoire. Let the man that is to receive any oracle from the good spirits be chaste, pure, and confessed, and a place being prepared pure and clean, and covered everywhere with white linen, on the Lord's day in the new of the moon let him enter into that place, clothed with clean white garments, and let him exorcise the place, and bless it, and make a circle therein with a sanctified charcoal, and let there be written in the uttermost part of the circle the names of the angels, and in the inner part thereof let there be written the mighty names of God, and let him place within the circle at the four angles of the world the censers for the perfumes. Then let him enter the place fasting and washed, and let him begin to pray towards the east this whole psalm, Beati Immaculati in via, etc. Blessed are the undefiled in the way, etc. Psalm 119, Vulgate 1 and 18. By perfuming, and in the end they will deign to discover and reveal that which he desireth. And that let him do for 6 days, continuing washed and fasting. And on the 7th day, which is the Sabbath, let him, being washed and fasting, enter the circle and perfume it, and anoint himself with holy anointing oil by anointing his forehead, and upon both his eyes, and in the palms of his hands, and upon his feet. And upon his knees let him say the psalm aforesaid, with divine and angelical names, which being done let him arise, and let him begin to walk about in a circuit within the said circle from the east to the west, until he is wearied with the dizziness of his brain. Let him fall down in the circle, and there he may rest, and forthwith he shall be wrapped up in an ecstasy, and a spirit will appear unto him, which will inform him of all things. We must observe also that in the circle there ought to be 4 holy candles burning at the 4 parts of the world, which ought not to want light for the space of a whole week. And the manner of fasting must be such that he abstain from all things having a life of sense, and from those things which do proceed from them, and let him only drink pure running water, neither let him take any food till the going down of the sun, and let the perfume and the holy anointing oil be made, as it is set forth in Exodus and the other holy books of the Bible. It is also to be observed that always as often as he enters into the circle, he have upon his forehead a golden layman, upon which there must be written the name Tetragrammaton, as we have before spoken. From the Key of Solomon. Edinburgh, the happiest and most haunted city, my chilling encounter with a malicious spirit in the infamous vaults. Recently I was in Edinburgh, Scotland, the happiest place on earth and one of the most haunted. I made sure to visit all the spiritual hotspots, Greyfriars Kirkyard, Mary King's Close, and the vaults. And it was there I seemed to have made a few little friends. Yes, classic ghost orbs. See the pictures in the blog post. I was so pleased. Also, I think I made friends with one of the spirits in this place. His reputation, according to the guide, is for being rather malicious, but in life it seems he was the sort of guy who you went to get things done. Seems like a hoodoo worker's dream to me. His name is Joseph Smith, from what I understand, and I think I will be giving future updates about my work with this most interesting spirit. By photos were taken on one of the Double Dead tours. Make sure to check them out if you're ever in Edinburgh. You get to see the haunted vaults and the graveyard at night. The end.